So I want to thank once again our sponsors for a weekly virtual Capital Connection, which is presented by Advent Health and Polk State College with the support of Tampa Electric. So I'm going to pop in and share my screen really quickly. All right. So again, we are starting March 23rd and moving right along in session. And of course, the chamber has our legislative priority statement, which is how I'm kind of following along what we're following at session. And of course, thank you to our legislative delegation up there that are working to support both our agenda as well as the citizens of Polk County. So bills filed, we're up 20 bills for this week, and you can see that the House has passed 7 and the Senate has passed 20. So we're seeing movement. One big area, one big area is the COVID liability, and we should see some major movement on this this week. The Senate passed Senate Bill 72, and the House Speaker basically has said through negotiations that the same bill will be taken up by the House this week, although the agenda is not printed yet for their session on Thursday. That is expected to come up in the discussions as the two bodies move forward. And then Main Street Fairness. So this was supposed to have some movement last week. However, the bill sponsor on the Senate side apparently had to head home for a family emergency. So this is on the special order calendar for this week. The Senate is also in session on the 25th. And then the House Bill 15 referred to the Commerce Committee. So this was, as I mentioned last week, they basically came up with a negotiation on there. There was a lot of discussion about how some people viewed the internet sales tax as a new tax, which it's not. It's something that we should have all been paying, but we weren't, most people anyway. I don't want to speak for everybody. So this would essentially use the revenues generated from that to backfill the state unemployment compensation trust fund. So we're seeing movement in that area as well. A couple other bills that I've been mentioning to you week after week, farming operations, which of course, Polk County being very agricultural. This is Jason Broder out of Seminole. Filed this and it passed 318 from the Senate, and it's still in committees in the House. Highway projects related to the MCORs, multi-use corridors of regional economic significance, and one of those being the Southwest Connector. That is on the special order calendar for the Senate's 325 session. 2 bills in both the House and the Senate that would completely repeal MCORs. Neither is having any movement yet. The Senate Bill 100 basically kind of ring fences the funding, but only for the other 2 corridors, not the Southwest Connector. But you know, we believe that process was a good process that the FDOT went through, and certainly highlighted some needed discussion points on future road projects. Percentage of electoral votes required to approve an amendment or revision is now on the rules side. And there's several other election things that are being discussed this week that we'll talk about in a moment. And then there is some movement on increasing the thresholds in annual revenues for you still to be considered cottage food industry. And so that came out favorable out of the Senate Commerce and Tourism, now to rules, and then referred to the House calendar. In terms of measuring of VAM scores, which is something that's a priority at Polk County Public Schools, it's on the Education Employment Committee on 324. There's been positive movement on the residential property insurance, which is now on the Senate rules on 325. Several people on the call from the CFTC I noticed this morning, so I know you're following closely the QTI tax refund. It came through favorable and is now in appropriations. Excuse me. And then the House Bill 6071 has not been heard yet. Beverage law, in terms of extending some of the executive orders from the COVID times, is in the third stop in rules. And then House Bill 329, which is Representative Tomko's bill, is referred to the House calendar. Visit Florida. Lots of movement and discussions on Visit Florida in the Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation and Tourism. favorable and has one more stop in appropriations. Pardon me, I didn't update that first line from last week, but has one more stop in appropriations on the Senate side. House Bill 675 has not been heard yet. You may have heard the governor discussing ways that he might use the American Rescue Plan funding from the federal level, and he was proposing an additional $50 million out of that to bolster Visit Florida and in turn the tourism industry in Florida. So we'll be watching that closely. The Florida Chamber on our call yesterday discussed being very active, probably very soon, on advocating for this bill to remove Visit Florida's sunset so that we're not having to have this fight every session. So we would certainly support that and want to see that movement forward. And then Polk State College, I mentioned to you last week, their renovations for enhanced security college-wide passed appropriations and now on to appropriations subcommittee, and now on to appropriations there. You've probably seen additional movement on the Bright Futures, I'll call it the Student Financial Aid Amending Bright Futures. Last week it passed Education Committee and now an Appropriations Subcommittee on Education 324. No movement in the House. According to our friends at the Florida Chamber, the lobbying team I spoke to yesterday, this hasn't really been, as they described it, the House hasn't bitten on this one yet. But one thing that they underscored is that this essentially is being discussed like it is an incentive similar to QTI or other sorts of economic development incentives, which I thought was an interesting analysis as to why this bill is being presented. And this probably will be something that we see continue to discuss, even if it doesn't make its way through this session. But again, as I joked last week, and they joked again, anytime you get 17-year-olds up in arms in something, it makes for an interesting discussion. So we'll continue to watch this. One bill that we were kind of excited about, the entertainment industry in terms of creating film, television, and digital media targeted rebate program, has not really been moving. And that is something that certainly we have people here in Polk County who have been following this and want to see the expansion of the film industry. So, but again, no real updates there. And then one that we are excited to see moving is craft distilleries and expansion of the industry, passed in the Senate and then Commerce Committee in the House for the final stop there. Two bills I mentioned to you last week, or three bills actually, Senate Bill 138 and 140 are being heard today in transportation appropriations. And then Senate Bill 1620 is being heard tomorrow in Community Affairs. And these are related to expansion of autonomous vehicles and amending current regulations to kind of update themselves with the technology that is available or will be available. And of course, we pay close attention to this since Polk County has become a hub with Florida Poly and the SunTrax testing track. And there's just really a lot of future of this industry in Central Florida, including in Osceola and work that UCF is doing. So we'll continue to watch these bills, but I think it's very important for the legislature to start thinking towards the future on these sorts of things. And then, as I mentioned to you yesterday or last week, House Bill 1429, which has to do with or with the tourist development tax that the counties collect to reinvest into tourism marketing or facilities. It did pass a second committee yesterday and has one to go, but a similar bill in the Senate has not yet been heard. Kind of making headlines in terms of the media. There are election law changes. Both legislative chambers have bills speaking to the use of ballot drop boxes, which of course was a hot topic during the last election. And so looking at different procedures, the House bill would apply new security measures to drop boxes, essentially forcing the supervisor of elections office to monitor them during work hours, surveil them during via security cameras. The Senate version basically proposes to eliminate drop boxes entirely, which for the procrastinator like me would not be a good thing. The House bill would also forbid supervisor of elections from sending absentee ballots to voters without first obtaining explicit request for one. And so you can kind of see additional things there. So another bill, which I don't have a slide on, but that is obviously made a lot of headlines, was the anti-riot bill. This was the bill that Governor DeSantis actually announced at Sheriff Grady Judd's office this past summer during kind of the heat and the height of the summer protest, past summer protest in 2020. So I think we'll see more headlines on both of those things as they get discussed. And so things are moving, and the Senate and the House both have session on Thursday. So the Senate does have some things already posted on the agenda, so you can take a look at that. House has not posted their agenda yet, at least not as of last night. So we'll continue to watch those. And then, of course, federal updates. I mentioned to you the PRO Act last week. We're continuing to watch that. It has passed the House, and we will next will be taken up in the Senate. So it's still unlikely that it would get the 60 votes to get through a filibuster, but it is something that we have to watch because obviously it's a lot different makeup in Washington. And this, of course, is the bill, and a lot of you have been asking questions about this one. It's protecting the right to organize and basically strengthens unions and would change really in substantive ways the way Florida is constructed as a right to work state. So if you need more information on that, please let me know. And so with that, I'm going to open it up to any questions. I haven't seen any questions come in. As I mentioned, we are watching a lot of things that are going on in Tallahassee right now and are moving forward. So, you know, I'm excited to see so many people on the call today. I thought with spring break, it would be me and Chad Davis from Senator Stargill's office on this call this week. So I made a joke yesterday with the team, you know, with I might have RSV, which if you're a parent, you know what that is, but things don't stop in Tallahassee. So you got to kind of keep moving forward and watching what is going on. So certainly want to open it up to any questions. I don't see anything that's come in yet, but we're going to get kind of down to things moving very quickly. And if things haven't been heard, then they could be unlikely to be heard unless they come up in negotiations between the Senate and the House. So I'm going to pause for a minute and see if any other questions pop in. Okay, I'm going to actually ask for Chad. I'm going to try to elevate you, Chad, to a panelist real quick so you can give a quick update here. So just give me one sec. Chad Davis is with Senator Stargill's office. And let's see if this works, Chad. There he is. Chad, you can unmute yourself if you'd like. And thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming on. Let's see, ask to unmute. There you go, sir.
Hey, Katie, thanks. Just one second. I'm trying to get my camera on.
Sure.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, there you are, Chad. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, things are moving along pretty quickly here. I was joking last week. Last week felt like the first week of session to me. The first couple of weeks were really slow due to the public not having as much access to our building. The Senate side, we're completely shut down to the public. The House, they're taking some meetings, but they have it pretty restricted as well. So we do miss having you all up here. We miss having Polk County Day and Leadership Winter Haven. You know, it's always you know, breath of fresh air to have folks from home come visit us. I guess all I really have to add, you did such a great job covering everything that's moving. We are in week 4. The budget seems to be going according to schedule. What's kind of unique with the spring sessions as opposed to the ones that begin kind of late winter, we have that week of Passover and Easter that kind of causes some delays. We do take off Friday, Good Friday, and then the Monday after Easter for travel. And when we get to that part about week 7, week 8 in session, that's when we go into our budget conferencing, which does go over the weekends. So we're working late nights and on Saturdays and even Sundays during that part of it. So when you have the holidays in there, it does kind of throw things off. But we are on track as far as I can tell. What we're at right now, we have the governor's budget, which came out back in January. And the House and Senate are working on their budgets. The subcommittees are working on their sections of the budget. I'm pretty confident that they already know kind of what they're working with at the subcommittee level. Once they put together all those projects, then they will bump that up to the Appropriations Committee on both sides, and then they will finalize each house's budget. Those will not be the same, and then that's when we go into conferencing. I think we were ahead of schedule up until about a week or so ago when we got the federal dollars. We started to see what that was going to amount to. I believe Florida's getting somewhere between $9 and $10 billion of that. The governor is going to spend about $4 billion of that, and that'll leave a little about like around $6 billion for the legislature to add to the budget. So that has slowed things down a little bit, but last I've heard, we're still on track for ending on time, which I will believe it when I see it. This is my 7th session, and only one of those ended on the actual day we were supposed to end. One ended early, and all the others ended late. So, but we are hoping to still get out of here though on April 30th.
So Chad, and thank you so much for being willing to pop on and kind of give an update from your side. From Senator Stargell's perspective, what are her biggest priorities? Obviously, she is in what we perceive as a very powerful position in terms of being on appropriations. But what would you communicate as her top priorities?
Well, when she knew she was going to be appropriations chair over the summer, we were watching very closely what was happening to the state with COVID and to the budget. And I can say that she has really taken her position in stride and has really gotten into the weeds with the appropriation staff. And I believe what she would say her priority is getting the budget back to government functions, sole government functions, and making sure that our money is going where it needs to go. So one thing that she has done that's kind of unique compared to previous budget chairs is she's required anyone that's requested money, projects in the budget to fill out a form, kind of an exercise that justifies it. Just because it's been in the budget year after year after year doesn't mean it should stay there. Times are good. It's we have extra money. We do all sorts of pilot programs that get in the budget, and sometimes those get kind of forgotten and they stay in the budget. So she's really gotten into the details of the budget, trying to figure out what are those programs that are necessary in our government functions, and to see where we can cut. We are very grateful that each time we've had the revenue estimates, that they keep going up. So we're doing a little bit better than we thought we would be, and so that's given us a little more room to breathe. But I'd say that's been her biggest priority. In years past, of course, she's worked very very closely on education policy and other issues. But I think this year she's really taking the budget as her main focus.
Very good. Yeah. And she is definitely running a very tight ship. I've watched a couple of the meetings and and there's been some very meaty discussions that have come through a lot of the meetings, but she keeps it moving, which is good, which is probably why we've seen so much kind of make its way through the Senate as it comes from that perspective. So when it comes to, you said they're having to fill out a form to justify the spending. Are they reporting on results of the program or how the programs have acted? Are you seeing a lot of pilot programs come through this year? And I kind of asked from the frame of mind of what we've learned in the last couple of sessions with Governor DeSantis is he really looks a quizzical eye at things that he considers local projects, and if they have a regional impact or if it should be funded through local dollars. So, what are you seeing from that perspective?
Well, first, I will give a caveat. I don't work on the budget. She has another staff that does that, professional Tallahassee staff that have been here for years doing that. But I know that to your point, the governor looking at local projects, wanting to see where the state nexus is and how they benefit the whole state. I think these forms are mainly looking to see who's getting them, how much is going towards maybe salaries and positions as opposed to the actual benefiting the intended beneficiaries. She's looking for redundancies. If we're giving money for different projects, but they're going to the same organizations that the state's been contracting with, is there a way that we can consolidate the money that they're getting to give them less dollars and still get the same results.
Mhm.
That kind of stuff. I don't, as far as the local stuff goes, that's always going to be an issue with the governor. You know, he he's going to look through there and try to find anything. And of course, in years past, you may have seen other appropriations chairs do a lot of what we call sprinkling, or they just spread extra money around to various projects, and we kind of see that go more to the local stuff. And we also kind of anticipate some of that being cut. I don't know if we're going to see quite as much of that this year.
Mhm.
Um, as far as justifying it, I mean, we're looking at. I mean, it may benefit a locale, but some of these some of the money that goes out are is directed to go to these groups through statute to provide certain services. They just might be contracted with one of our local groups. So that would be a little bit different from just a local project that would benefit just a small community.
Very good. Well, I'm going to pause for a second and see if anybody else has any questions directly for Chad. I don't see anything that's come in yet, but Chad, thank you so much for being so accessible to us and staying so connected to us through this session. And I'm seeing you pop on several of these phone calls. And if I ever say anything that's wrong, please let me know. You know, we try to filter through so much. I mean, between reading the blogs and then being on the Florida Chamber calls, and it's interesting to see how different people analyze different information in many ways. So. But it's exciting to see a lot of very important legislation, from the COVID liability to what we're calling the Main Street fairness and various things of that nature, making their way through without too much opposition. I think a lot of people know there are certain things that we just have to focus on this year. So it's good to see some bipartisan support for various measures.
Sure. Well, it's my pleasure, and thanks for all you do. I enjoy connecting even virtually, so I can stay involved with what's going on back in Winter Haven.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely miss, it's funny, on my social media memories, all of our visits to Tallahassee keep coming up. In fact, today, the very first time I was ever in Tallahassee 12 years ago when I went through Leadership Winter Haven was today. So I know it makes me feel really old. But yeah, so Chad, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and want to thank everybody that popped on the call today. Again, if you have legislation that you're watching that I did not mention, or you think that we should be aware of, please let me know, and I'll be sure to add that to my list that I'm looking at every week. So thank you guys so much, and we will pick back up on this next Tuesday. All right. Bye, Chad. Thank you, sir.
Bye.